Welcome everyone to the Wednesday webinar on the Windchill BOM management. Once again, my name is Michael Wimberly and I will be doing the presentation today. So with this, the overall agenda, of course, is just do a general introduction of myself as well as PDSVISION, just a brief, what BOM management is, and then of course jump right into Windchill and look at managing BOMs. So my name once again is Michael Wimberly. I am a technical director of customer success. I've been with PDSVISION now for over 12 years. I've been working with PTC products for over 25 years, working inside of the PTC channel for over 20 years, and I've been a certified trainer and implementer of Creo as well as Windchill. As far as PDSVISION, we are headquartered in Stockholm with operations in over 12 countries, or in 12 countries, I should say. We're a trusted advisor for software solutions and services in the digital transformation with over 2,500 years of combined technical experience. One of PTC's top partners, being a platinum level worldwide and rapidly growing partner of ANSYS software as well. And then we also have developed our own applications with My PDS apps. If you go to our website, you can actually see those, which once again will enhance the value of your Windchill environment and how you use it, and even helping to expand the use of it within your environment. All right. So one of the big things that we're looking at right now is the full digital transformation of our environments. So kind of going away from using some of the paper that we used to do, some of the standard emails that we would always send out, even share drives that we were going to do. So we're looking to kind of transform that into a more efficient methodology. So some of the challenges that we deal with in products, production, processes, infrastructure, and even data, if we go to products, one of the things that we want to do is we want to go through and make our products smarter. So that is a big thing for us. We want to connect them with the Internet of Things so that once again, we can detect things, detect errors, detect failures that are going to happen before they actually happen. Fulfill regulations. There's a lot of things that are going on. FDA, of course, is a big thing if you're doing any type of government contracts. Those are things, there are certain regulations that you have to go through and maintain. That's a big piece of it as well, where that information is stored, how secure it is, all that is important as well. And then, of course, building a digital twin, which is basically a digital version of your actual product, fully functional. You can run the analysis and everything on it to make sure or to confirm that it is going to do what it's going to do. And of course, we go into the production, decrease manufacturing downtime, once again, by having everything connected using IoT or whatever other methodologies we want to use to go in and once again know that we're coming up to a maintenance cycle, or we see that the coolant isn't flowing as rapidly as it should. We can actually go in and detect that as well before once again it stops and things dry up and end up breaking, which is once again protecting failures. With our aging workforce, there's a lot of knowledge in our workforce that is actually beginning to retire. We need to capture that. And the best way to do that is to go in and create systems or update systems that do some of the processes that they may have been doing for 50 years. And of course, optimize the production through AI. One of the things that we can do, and I'm sure you guys have seen with the Google Glass and things like that, where you can actually go through and create an AR representation, augmented reality of your system and actually show how it assembles, how it disassembles, how to go through and replace things. So we can actually use that so that it's very consistent across the board, that everybody's using the same methodology. And once again, it doesn't require, multiple people being there. So even if it's a training session, using the AR basically allows us to do things virtually instead of always having to be in person for it. Now, don't get me wrong, in person is good as well. Removing data silos, that's really, really important. That's really good because what we end up with and you can attest to this in your engineering environments, is that engineering may start with it, and then they send prints to manufacturing. They send a specific BOM at that moment in time to procurement, but they're sending static information. So if anything updates, they have to repeat that process. Well, if we all are looking at the same information live, real time, then manufacturing can see what they need to see directly in the system. They can get notified if something changes. If procurement is going in and ordering something, or creating the structures, they can do that directly from the Windchill as well. Smart connected systems, smart connected operations, and then once again, service and operations. All those different things, once again, instead of everybody having their own set of information, it's all linked to the same core data. Now, we may have different structures that we're building off, which is once again, manufacturing BOMs, service BOMs, things like that, but the core information is still the same. And when it updates, those BOMs update as well. Infrastructure, um, reduce non-value IT costs. A lot of movement is going to the cloud and SaaS, which is software as a service. So a lot of things are basically moving off of our local computers and now being on the cloud in some form. So that's one of the biggest things as well, which is once again, we don't have to maintain, all the large hardware that we're normally doing. We can go through and reduce that down and actually put some more into the actual local computers instead of having all the servers as well. And then the data, big data, create value out of data. Once again, AI, data lakes, analysis, data and cybersecurity, and then of course create new business models. So all these things with our actual data, our intellectual property is the core for all of our businesses. So how we go through and control that, how we go through and reuse that is important, but also protecting that is a big important part as well. So making sure that the right people have the right access to that data when they need to, and the people that we don't want to see it don't have access to it. And then even, creating new business models. What does that mean? Well, what that simply means is we've done it this way for 40 years. It's okay to go through and make a change because technology has changed. We can now go through and change the methodology that we're going in and doing to go in and produce our products, to maintenance our products, to release our products, all those different things. We can now go through and update that information so that we now have a new and more efficient and more than likely faster way of getting things done. All right. So once again, with all that, Windchill PLM solution is basically the key to it all. So that is the core of everything. So all those things that we just talked about can be connected to our PLM system, which is once again the Windchill environment. So whether we're talking, system engineering, programming, and program management, all that can be done in the system. We can connect with our suppliers. We can go in and maintain our CAD data, our BOM structures, release processes, change processes, all those different things that we can go through and maintenance or maintain within inside of our Windchill environment. So out of all of this, the main thing that we're going to focus on today is our BOM management, to go through and actually manage our bill of materials. So what is BOM management? BOM management is pretty simple. It is capturing, configuring, and managing all product data that is developed through the life cycle of a product. Once again, effective BOM management is critical to a manufacturer's success, no matter the size or number of parts in the product. So once again, it's just simply making sure that what we have is being shared appropriately, whether we're talking, our CAD data and those bill of materials, or we're looking at our WT part structures that we have inside of Windchill that we're controlling and altering as necessary. So once again, that's what we're going to look at today. It's just simply BOM management, the different types of BOMs that we can go through and use and see. So what we're looking at here is simply our Windchill environment. So as you can see over here, there's a lot of information, and you're going to hear me emphasize as we're going through some of these tables looking at information is, and if you look at some of my previous webinars, you know, the more data you put in, the more information you can get out of it. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do within our Windchill environment. Once again, we just talked about um, changing our mindset, going in and changing to the digital environment. So you can see here's just different folders, just looking at the names of the folders, design reviews, you know, distributable drawings, you know, things that we can share. You know, our document management is something that's huge that a lot of people are now looking at as well, is how do we tie our documents to our actual CAD files? Well, that's in Windchill through WD parts. Any graphics information that we had, manufacturing information, miscellaneous parts list, so on and so forth. So, and even published content and service parts. So all those different things we can go through and once again maintain inside of our Windchill environment. So once again, instead of having multiple programs doing different things and all those programs are disconnected, we can bring all that information into Windchill and have all that information connected so that when a change is made, the appropriate related items are also changed as well. So we're going to focus on just the design area right now, and we're looking at BOM data. So inside of here, we have the regular BOM data, but before I go to my standard BOM, I also want to look at the CAD data. So if we go into CAD data, we will see, there are 914 different items inside of here. You can see, once again, just on a side note, these little icons right here lets us know that there's a change in process. So this design is actually in the process of going through a change. So it lets us know, instead of having to review our emails, when we go into Windchill, there's our signal that something is happening to this product, which is great. So, and you can see there's our thumbnails of all the different items inside of here. So all that is here as well for us, as well as the states, whether it's released, whether it's still in design state. We can go through and make these as in depth as we want to when we're going in and managing our data as well. So for this, we're going to go through and just simply look for our snowmobile. I'm just going to type in snow. All right, and then we can see here's that top level assembly in the CAD. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and just view that. And now, if you're looking, I'm only in Windchill. I'm not actually going to do anything with Creo for this. Everything that we're going to be looking at is simply inside of a standalone browser for Windchill. So everything that I'm doing can be done with just simply a base license of Creo. Well, with without having a workgroup manager or anything for the CAD. Now, there are areas when we get into NPM link and things like that that are advanced BOM information, but just viewing information inside of Windchill can just simply be done with a simple base license of Windchill. All right, so here we have the information there. Once again, you can see the life cycle of everything. The important part that we're looking at right now is simply the structure. Now, there's our CAD structure. Now, the thing that you will see with this is that what we're looking at is an assembly that has options. So basically options modeler, and inside of Windchill, options and variants. So that's kind of what we're looking at here, is that you're going to see a bunch of different things. So this is body system assembly, so we'll see all this information when we look at the visualization of this CAD file. Give it just a couple seconds to come up. We'll be able to see this actual assembly. Now, even if you just look down here or up in here, you can see that there's kind of duplicate. So this assembly is actually an overbuilt assembly. And that's okay, because that's once again what we wanted to show, is that we're still showing our BOM structures for each of these things. It's just showing all the information inside of the CAD. So we can expand all these things to show it and see the individual structures of those things. Now, if that's what we wanted, then we can just simply go through and publish this out. If we just want to go through and show this information, we can go through and either just show it as a report, or we can go through, if we need to go in and import it to another environment, we can export it as one of these items here. Now, the information that you export is going to be whatever is displayed in these columns. So if we want to go through and show some additional information, we could. So I can go through and just change my display and then just go in and add some additional information to it. So just like we would if we were in our regular table displays, we just go through and add additional information. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do that in a different file, or when we're looking at a different file. All right, so in here, I want to go through and look for, there is a hood module. Underneath the hood module, there is an actual hood assembly. That is this item here. We're actually going to go in and look at that one directly. So I'm going to, instead of being in that top level assembly that has all the different variances, I'm going to come into a single assembly to view. So once again, now we're in this hood assembly. We can see all the individual pieces that make this up. Now, once again, if we want to now go through and show this BOM, we can go in and do our reports, multi-level BOM, and it'll go through and show the BOM. Oh, sorry. Oh, keep that in mind that when you select the items up here, it is for whatever is selected in this window. That was my fault. I did a BOM for this part, or sorry, a report for this part, and there's nothing to show. I do need to make sure that I'm selecting that top level before I go in and do my report. And now you can see that it goes through and shows that information. Now, this display is different than this one. You can see that here. So this information is controlled by this structure here. So these are structure views versus table views. So if we want to go through and add information here, we would do that in this environment. Same basic layout, but it's for this particular view. Now, if this is what we wanted, now at this point, we can now go in and export this to one of those file formats. Excuse me. But if we want to go through and export this, then we can come over and export, and I'm just going to go through and show it as a PDF. Say open it. And once again, it's only showing the columns that I actually had displayed. So it's not going in and adding anything to it. It just has file name, number, and version. It should, yep. There's the hood assembly that we were just in. There's the structure that we were just in. And once again, we want to go through and update this. So this is TAD information. So what we may want to know is who modified it last, where is it at? Because all these things may not be in the same directory. So let's come over here to our views, manage our structure. I can save this. I'm just going to edit this just because of where we are. I can edit this one, come over to the column displays. And what I want to do is look at or add modified by, last modified, and where's the other one I want? Location. So I'm going to take those and I'm going to go ahead and add those to here. So it's going to be last modified. I'm going to move modified by up, and then the folder location will be last. Finish. Okay. And then once again, now I have this information. So whatever information you want to be able to show, you can go through and add those columns before you go in and export it out. That way, now when I go in and do my export to a PDF, open it, now I have that information ready for me to look at. Or once again, if there's something we need to go through and update, but this allows us to see, once again, for our CAD files, who was the last person to work on these, anything in this assembly and when. So we can see all that information here. All right, so we can keep that. And now from here, instead of just looking at the CAD, because once again, the CAD is still limited as to what information we can go through and look at, we also want to go through and look at its associated items. So we always want to see where it's used. So this is pretty nice. You can see that it is in this snowmobile master, which once again, remember, we're looking at options modeler. So the snowmobile master is the top level, but it's also associated with this hood module, which is associated with the body system, which now goes to that top level assembly that we were looking at. So there's a master assembly, and then there's a snowmobile assembly that we were just looking at. So it's used in both of those areas. But the other thing that's important that we also can see that there is this standard hood WT part. Now, it's not the standard gear that we're looking at because this is a variant. So remember, we're talking about options and variances now. So we still want to go through and look at that as well. So same thing, look at its structure. Its structure is going to basically be the same that we looked at before. The visualization item is going to be the same thing that we looked at before as well. But now we're looking at it from a WT part level. And you can see here with this, we have additional information that we can go through and look at as well. So we can have our standard views. And that's the one thing I don't think we take full advantage of is the information that we're displaying in our BOM structures. Let's go through and make sure we're using all these things. So this one here is status. And it's simple. We just want to know where everything is. You know, part hierarchy, manufacturing status. You know, here's everything is make. There's one that's buy. You know, so we have that information. So we can go through and create as many table views as we want to with as much or as little information that we want to go through and show. Now, like I was just mentioning in the previous one, this information, if this is information that we need to give to manufacturing, give them their display. All right, here it is. We're now seeing that these things are at this level. I'm going to export this or send a link to them. However we want to go through and do it and say, hey, I need you to update this information for me. I need you to make sure that these are correct. These say they're released, you know, related process plan. There isn't one at the moment for any of these. You know, okay, this one is still at the design state. Why? Some of the parts underneath it are released, but the majority of these are at the design state. Why? Because once again, we can see that these things are currently going through a change. In order for these things to be modified, they need to be at a state that can be modifiable. And that's where these are set to design and everything else is set to still being released. So these are actually going through a change process. Once again, for information, if we want to, we can simply export that. That information will now be displayed in our PDF file, and we can go on and move on from there. But once again, using our BOMs or configuring our BOM tables is very, very easy to do. And once again, I don't think we take full advantage of that information that we can go through and use. All right, so from here, one of the other things that we talked about is having multiple types of BOMs. So we have design BOMs, which is basically equivalent to our CAD BOM. We don't really do much with that. But we also have BOMs that we want to go through that are specific to manufacturing or maybe specific to service parts. So we want to go through and create those as well. Now, depending upon how you create those will determine how you see them. So for example, with this one, this is a design assembly. If I've created a manufacturing assembly that's basically an alternate to this, where I'm just going to turn one on and turn the other one off, I can simply change this from design to manufacturing. I can do that right here. I can come up here and edit the current filters. With this current filter, right now it's saying design. I can come over here and change this to manufacturing, update that, say okay, And now this would normally change to manufacturing. Once again, depending upon how I created the BOM version of this. For this one, there's not an BOM version built into this. It was created as a separate number. So it actually will be different than this one. So I'm going to go ahead and change this back to design, because one other way to know is to always look at the history, because the history will show you if there's a manufacturing version of this as well. So just something to keep in mind. And once again, a manufacturing with this same information. So once again, for this one, it is not. So how do we find it? Well, because they are associated, the easiest way to do it is let's go in and compare the BOMs. Open in BOM transformer. Now, this is now where NPM link comes in, because what this BOM transformer does is when we're creating that alternate version of it, now this one is already built, so this is great, and you can tell that everything is okay because the status of everything is checked except for these being out of date, and they're out of date on both. So the actual version of the file is out of date. But when this is created, it allows us to make sure that everything that we've developed in our design BOM has an equivalent version of it in the manufacturing BOM. And it could be everything that's manufacturing, and maybe we go in and restructure it. So we may have subassembly, like this one doesn't show any subassemblies in it. It looks like the BOMs are basically equivalent to each other. But another way to do it is going and saying, okay, these parts here, go ahead and show visualizations. But we can go in and say, okay, these parts here are part of another subassembly. So because we're going in and developing this BOM for manufacturing, the design BOM is fine. We can now come over here and restructure this BOM and now make it the way that we actually want it to be for manufacturing. And we can do it by plant, we can do it by process, we can do it by vendor. So we have all these things in here, but as you saw, some things are make, some things are buy. Okay, so these parts that are made from this specific vendor. So we can put those together in a subassembly. We can put other ones together in a subassembly. If we're purchasing, we can go in and put the ones that are purchased from McMaster-Carr here, ones that are purchased from Granger here, whatever. So we can go through and now build up this manufacturing assembly that makes sense to us. And we can also do the same thing with the service BOM. With the service BOM, we can go through and do the exact same thing too, where we're now going in and creating it based on how service is going to maintenance everything. So it's already put together when service gets to it. Now they're going to go through and maintenance it. How are they going to go through? What kind of structure do they need to look at? Because they're not building it. They're just now going in and tweaking it, updating it, whatever it may be, fixing it, whatever is necessary. But this is where we would now go through and see, okay, this does have another part. And if you look, the part number on this one is 0114026. This one is 0114026-11. So when we created this, we went in and now added a suffix to it, so it was related to it. And that's one of the options when you're creating your BOM, is to go in and actually add a suffix for it. So the base number is the same. So instead of giving it a whole new part number, the base number is the same. We just added a suffix to it to designate it as a separate model inside of with the same base information. So once again, I'm now in that manufacturing file. We can see everything here. There's all the structure. Once again, attributes, classifications, uses, all those different things. Any information that we need to go through and show, we can do. Like I said, so with this BOM management, we're now going in and specifying what we want. And once again, the key part to BOM management is making sure that the people that need to use the BOM have the information that they need in the way that they need it. So once we have that information, once again, using different display settings, we can do that. And then take that information and once again, export it So we actually now can go through and import it into our ERP system or give it to somebody else for some other system to go through and use, or for a vendor to go through and use that's not associated with our system or in our Windchill environment. So very, very easy. Once again, now with the creation of your manufacturing BOMs, can you create a manufacturing part and a manufacturing structure that does not use npm link? Yes, you can. So I can still go in and create an equivalent part to my design part that's manufacturing. I can still do that without npm link, but the tools in npm link allows us to make sure that the associations don't break. So we can go in and build up that information. We can go through and create the restructuring properly. We can go through and split out the quantities properly. So that's one of the things that we're able to do as well when we go through and create these items and have reference designators. With those different reference designators, we can now go through and pinpoint, hey, this one has a quantity of 4, but that quantity of 4 is in 2 different assemblies. 2 of them are over here and 2 of them are over here. Now we can go through and now separate those. Instead of just having a full quantity of 4, we're saying that this subassembly has 2 of them and this subassembly has 2 of them. So it allows us to go in and break those things apart, and once again make sure that everything is accounted for, making sure the relationships are there. So yes, can we create a manufacturing structure without npm link? Sure, we can. But once again, do I recommend it? Not necessarily, especially if it's something you're going to be using on a regular basis. It's going to be part of your routine. I would definitely recommend the npm link tool to go through and actually, or module, to go through and use and maintenance that properly. So yeah, like I said, you can do it. I just don't necessarily recommend you doing it without npm link. So yeah. So I don't know if that was going to be a question, but I gave you the answer. All right. So once again, the key to a lot of this is, where is this information used at? So even for this manufacturing part, you can see that it is used inside of this snow assembly, but you can see that is the manufacturing version of it, as well as service BOM. So for this snow assembly, it actually is used in both the service BOM and the manufacturing BOM. And then this is also used inside of a parts list. So that information is also there. All right, so if I go back to here, once again, with the structure of everything, I can do it's where used, and we can see this one is used in multiple variations of this. So remember, I told you this assembly is an options and variant assembly, which means it has multiple things that can be shown, or configurations, that can be shown inside of Windchill. So we've overbuilt this assembly, this snow mobile assembly that has everything in it, and we use our options and variances to go through and control what we see. So these are different configurations of that we've saved. So they're listed here, but the other place we can get to those two, and even getting to the top level, is if we come over here to the browse under snowmobile. If we go to details, under the details page, it goes through and shows you those different configurations. So if you want to see what standard configurations we already have, we just simply go over here, select on one of them, go to its structure, and it goes through and it show you what's in that. So, and once again, those are the tools that we're using to go through and configure that BOM. Same thing. Now we need this information, export it out, do a report on it. So all these things we can go in and use. If you just want to go to your top level, when you go through and you designate an assembly as an end item, when you come over here and you select on structure, it will go through and take you to that item. So this top level snowmobile master was designated as the end item of this product. And now you can see that inside of here are all of the options and variants underneath there. So that's why you see different icons. As I go through and expand, we then go through and see the different ones. So there's the structure node, there's the basic node, and then of course now down here we're down to the variant. So each one of these we can go through and use. Now the other thing that we can also go through and configure is our filters. So with the filters, if we go in and do an edit on this filter, or even come over and save existing filters, we can go in and configure this as well. So this is different than our views. With our views, we're simply going in and specifying what table information we want to go through and display. So we're not necessarily turning on and turning off, although we can, because we can specify certain filters in here. But this is designated specifically for that filter that right now we're just looking at, yeah, it's designed and working, but we also have all those options that we've gone through and designated, they're right here. So when we come over here to our options filter, we can then go in and see those different things that we've gone through and specified as available options. Engine size, the different suspensions, all those things we can go through and specify here. So I'm just, once again, I have no idea what configuration is, so you get to learn with me. So let's just see what we end up with. Front suspension, rear suspension. And then the other thing with this, if I come over here and I say, okay, it'll go through and give me that, and it'll go through, and I didn't show the image. I'll clear the filters and you can see that as well. But you can see that it removed some of the additional information. So this did have 2 listed here. Now it just has 1. So we can still use our options and variances, or our options that we've defined in our filters, to go through and designate what we're showing. So if I come over here and I just say clear, say okay, everything comes back. So even from within inside of here, we can use those options and variances and then go in and save that as a display. So maybe it's not a configuration that we want to save, but it's something we want to look at as a display option. So you can see it doubled back up on my items here. When we go through and do the front suspension, so maybe it isn't, but I can come over here and say, hey, I want to see the latest manufacturing view. I want to see the latest, release state view in the design, or the latest production release for manufacturing. So I can go through and set any of these items in here for the display. So if I want to go through and manage those, yeah, I can go through and turn on and turn off what's going to be available for me to use pretty simply here. My save filters, there's your default one. Any of those. What was I just looking at? Nope, I don't want to save anything. But I can go through and let's just go in. I'm going to say, where was the one I was looking at? The red. You can see that it's a manufacturing view, so it changed that to use the manufacturing and give it a moment to update. And you can see that it'll update that configuration based on this configuration. And once again, export it. So in using these different things, yes, options and variances are great to use, but don't forget the simple tools that are built inside of our system are there to help us to configure these BOMs and make it easy for us to use them, as well as to give information to the appropriate people, whether we're going in and adding, pardon me, whether we're going in and adding to the simple column display, or we're using these filters to go through and do it as well. I can let the current filter, that shows me what everything is currently set to. So all those options that we've defined, this is the default up here, manufacturing with effectivity dates, which is also a good one as well. I forgot about that one. Effectivity is also a key one to all this, not just for the options and variances, but just for your configuration. Because one of the things that they also show here, which is really great, is past model year for effectivity, the current model year using effectivity, and then the future model year. So we may have already configured and designed what this is going to look like for our 2025 model, but that doesn't get released until November. So up until November, we're still going to be looking at the current model year. And then we'll look at, come November, the current model year now will become what is now the future model year, based on the dates that we've set up inside of the effectivity area. So effectivity, I'm not sure yet. You can see here, the things are set up. Right here is the effectivity area for this. The current state is right now. So from 1st of June of 19 to current is our current bill of material. The history you can see down here. This one specifically, you can see when we go through, this was from 18 to the end of, the beginning of June 18 to the end of May 19, which is now where this one kicked in. And that's from manufacturing. There's the one from design. And then down here is just the maturity history of it as a whole. So effectivity, it's possible for you to go through and add effectivity. So you kind of have to back it up. But one of the easiest places to add effectivity is through the change process. So when you're going in and you're specifying the items that you're going to go through and update, inside of there, as long as you have your WT parts listed in there, you can go through and specify effectivity dates as well. So with that, once again, I'll go back to my structure. And in my structure, once again, the key piece of this whole thing is making sure that when we have our BOMs, we are displaying them the way they need to be displayed. Once again, we're in our options and variances. I'll come back up to details. This is where we will go through and set those up. So those that are not familiar with options and variances, this is where we would actually set that up. So inside of the details area for that product, if we have the option for options and variances, then it allows us to go through and now set up our option pool. And as you can see, each one of these has everything that we've been looking at. What choices they're going to have, if we have any of them where they use that, so any configurations that we may have had, it shows us this is used in all of these different areas. So we understand this is once again just a Windchill thing. We understand when we are making modifications, what is going to be affected. So there's a lot of information that we can go through and look at and configure for this. But then there's our option sets. And then once again, if we go back to the details page, you can see these are all design. There's manufacturing, and there's even one down here for service. And then a little bit further down, there's some additional information for publication structures, so the actual manual itself, and then informational structure, which is associated to the service parts. And that would actually be some of the processes, whether we're looking at how to repaint something, how to go through and change out a light bulb, those can be things that are actual processes that can be listed down here for the information structures. So it can be some processes that we will go through and specify. But once again, the whole key to our digital footprint growing is simply starting here. Let's start going in and managing our bill of materials through Windchill. Yeah, we have, our CAD file that is our initial item that we can go through and use. That's automatic. If you're using Windchill, you get this. You can go through, once again, add the columns that you want and still export it. But you don't get the effectivity stuff. You don't get the approved vendor list and all that other stuff that comes with it by just using CAD. So if you're not using WT parts, let's turn those on. It's that simple. Turn on the use of WT parts. They don't hurt. Yeah, you're going to see them, but you can always set up an object initialization rule that says, hey, when we go through and we create our parts, we don't want them to intermingle with our CAD. So anytime you create a part, it goes into our BOM data. So it will automatically be assigned to a separate folder than your CAD data. They're still connected. You just don't have to look at them. So when you're ready to start manipulating your BOMs, they're there. When you start going in and changing your CAD, doing revisions and promotions, all that stuff, change processes, collect it all. That way you have everything at the same iteration, you have everything at the same revision, at the same state. That way, once again, everything is going through its process. And as you start to go in and now start to bring more data into Windchill, such as documents. Well, this snowmobile is a pretty big deal. It has a bunch of stuff associated with it, even just the top level. So if we want the owner's manual associated with the top level of that snowmobile, we associate it with the WT part file. Also associated with that WT part file is the top level of the snowmobile CAD file. So when you find one, you find everything. That relationship continues to go. Also, when you are looking at, and I'm going to go back here real quick. When we're in here, if we wanted to see all the CAD files that were associated with our WT part files, or see what had CAD files and what may have just been, created, I can go in and select. Remember, when we select any menu option, it's based on what you have selected. So I'm going to select everything in here, and I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to tell it to show CAD documents. So now it's going to go through and expand and show all the related CAD files to those WT part files. So once again, if the numbers happen to be different, you named your WT part something and your CAD file is something else, doesn't matter, because the system understands those relationships and will build it. And then the other thing that I did not have, and I don't think there are any, and I forgot to create that. There is an option for replacement parts. I don't think I have any in here, but what this does, it gives you an alternate. So let's just say you have this bolt and you ran out of them. They're on back order, they're a special bolt, but there is another one that is equal to it, or that will work for the application. So what we can say is that this is a replacement for this. So if we don't have this, you can use this. Now, the benefit of replacements is that you can specify if this replacement is only for this assembly, or is it something that no matter where it's used, I can always swap these two out. If it's just for this assembly, then that replacement status will only show up in this specific assembly. It won't show up anywhere else. If it is global, then when we're looking at that file, it will show us that there is a replacement for it that we can use. If it's just for this assembly, then it'll show a replacement, but it'll show specifically where the replacement is available. It will also show, or we can also go in and designate whether or not that replacement is bidirectional, which means I can sub part B for part A, but can part A be subbed for part B? So we can go through and specify that as well. So there's a lot of additional stuff that we can go through and do. And once again, those are WT parts. Effectivities, WT parts. You know, if you notice, there's a whole lot of tabs here that were not in the CAD file because a lot of the core PLM information is associated with the PLM object, which is the WT part. So once again, if you're not using WT parts, turn them on. Like I said, it doesn't hurt anything. Put them in another folder. But as you begin to grow your digital footprint, that's one less thing you're going to have to go in and do when you're ready to now start managing your BOMs. You're now ready to start create manufacturing BOMs, service BOMs, associate items, whether it be a document, a video, a PDF, you know, whatever it may be of the CAD file with the WT part file. So definitely highly recommend go ahead and get those turned on. If you need some assistance with that, just let us know. I can send you the options to go in and do that. It's not something that you have to go through and just bulk load. I recommend when you're doing a check-in on that second page of your check-in, there's an auto associate. Turn that on. If there is a WT part file, it'll just update it. If there's not a WT part file, it will create one for you. That way it's there, it's checked in, and once again, you don't have to look at it. But I do recommend that if you do turn on WT part files, there are some additional Windchill options that are also available to make sure they are collected. So when you go through and you do a change on a CAD file, it automatically collects the WT part file. And vice versa. You know, if I'm doing a promotion, collect the WT part file. If I'm doing a revision, collect the WT part file. So you want to make sure that those things are in sync as well. So like I said, as we're growing our digital footprints, the important piece of all of this is to use the digital pieces, which once again, WT part is really the foundation to anything else that you want to grow in your PLM system. So I did a webinar on PDM to PLM. Let's move from the PDM, which is just product data management, to product lifecycle management, and let's start getting other areas of our industry, of our businesses involved in the system as well. Let's break these silos and interdependency on, hey, I need to get engineer to get me this BOM. Well, if they have access to Windchill, go. Let them go in and do it. And once again, we can go in and specify that they can only see it at a release date. They don't get to see the design view stuff. So yeah. With that being said, are there any questions? If there are questions, add them to the chat. Let's see. Is there a way to auto between Windchill and SAP? There is an ERP connector that will go between Windchill and other ERP. I think SAP may be one of them. But the key to that as well is which direction are you looking to go? Is it a single direction? Single direction is easier to do. Let's say, once again, exporting information from Windchill into an SAP. But if you're trying to feed data from the SAP into Windchill, then there's more work that needs to be done, actually quite a bit more work in order for Windchill to receive that data. So it all depends on bidirectional, but yes, there is a ERP connector that actually will connect Windchill to different ERP systems. Quick question, WT part structure. Sometimes the build status is not completed. Could you tell a few words about that, please? Well, that is not done. Well, even with the BOM structure, where am I at? To close it? I didn't close it, did I? No. Yeah, even with the BOM structure, when we're looking at um, where am I at? When yeah, we're looking at the filters. See, some of that, yeah, it's incomplete depending upon what's shown here. So sometimes it will show everything, depending upon where that structure is, but things that may not be at appropriate state, we will not go in and show. And why is that not done? I'm not sure. It may be something that that we can go through and set. But I think those structures, once again, aren't shown completely depending upon what's here. So apply the top level, apply the latest unresolved dependence. That's usually one of the issues that we see. All right, there was another question. And how do I add suffix parts? Suffix parts and maintain the equivalency link to the upstream. Actually, when you're going in and creating, so I mentioned going in and actually adding or creating an actual part from a CAD or the WT, no, manufacturing, sorry. I'm going to go ahead and open up just this one. Oh, why is it not available? Oh, okay, sorry. Somehow I accidentally closed my Windchill environment. So it is closed. So sorry, I wish it was still up. But when you're going in and you're defining that you want to go in and create the, not the branch, what is the appropriate term? See if it'll at least give me that new view version. I can't do it because once again, my system is basically stalled. In that dialog box, there's a pick in there that allows you at the very top of it, that allows you to go through and specify and a suffix. And that is the default that's in there. Now, is there a limit as to the numbers? I don't think so. I have to look and see if it's one of those where it is a chart that just has these suggested values, but you can type in. I've never tried to type in a value. Or is it a locked set of numbers? That's something that we would have to look at, and I'm not 100% sure if that listing is locked down. But once again, when you're doing your new view version, and in that dialog box, there's a pick in there to go through and add that suffix manufacturing that I just looked at. Yep. Yes. Yeah. I think that's all the questions at the moment. If you have any additional questions that I did not address, please feel free to reach out to me. Once again, my email address is michael.wimberly@pdsvision.com. I'll be more than happy to go through and answer any questions that you have or get you information that you need. Once again, any information that you want about us, of course, visit our website, pdsvision.com. We have a YouTube page that has a lot of our previous webinars on there, not just from us in the States, but also our co-workers in Europe as well. So they actually have their webinars in here as well. So you'll get a lot of data from from all of us around the globe. And then this one will actually be available to you through an email. So because you are actually here, you'll get an email once it is available that will be a link to this. So this one will not appear on our website or on our YouTube page immediately. So, but other than that, you guys have a great and wonderful remainder of the afternoon. Thank you for sticking with me a little bit past the hour, but I hope that the information that we covered was beneficial to you all. Once again, have a great remainder of your day.